Mr. Banana by RK Gorman. We'd been doing civics for the past month. I was teaching second grade at Witherspoon Elementary, struggling to teach the meaning of Gettysburg and the Battle of Princeton to a bunch of 8-year-olds. Especially without giving diatribe about the evils of slavery and making them bring that shit home to their parents. One day, I was stuttering through a lesson on the state's right speech by Jefferson Davis when, suddenly, Jimmy blurted out, "Mr. Johnson, you look like a banana." The other kids laughed their heads off, latching onto the joke immediately. Yeah, a big fat banana, stinky banana. All right. I know my clothes are a little funny. I was wearing a yellow Ralph Lauren button-down and some bright mustard khakis, brown shoes too. The stem, I guess. Just for today, you can call me Mr. Banana. The kids exploded after that. We didn't accomplish much for the rest of the day, but I wondered if this whole Mr. Banana business might actually be good for them. On the way home, I decided to buy some stuff from Green Street. A couple of yellow button-downs, some yellow ties, a few pairs of pants. I sighed at the receipt. Mr. Banana. The cashier didn't notice, but I chuckled as I walked out the door. Walking down Nassau, I had the sudden craving for banana bread. So I went to Wawa and bought some ingredients. Figured I would bake one for myself and one for the kids. When I got home, I mixed up all the ingredients and put 2 loaves in the oven. Then I pulled up an old episode of Sesame Street on YouTube. I was thinking a lot about Yellow, I guess. But it never occurred to me how magnetic Big Bird was. That lovable bohemian, always brightening everyone's mood. There's this one episode where he goes to school for the first time, and he tries to take his desk from the classroom because the teacher said it was his. I laughed thinking about having a giant bird in my classroom. Everything would probably go to shit. Anyway, once the banana bread was done, I sliced myself a big piece, squirting a little whipped cream on top. It was good, but it tasted a little strange. Figured I would change up the recipe if I made another batch. The next day I came to school in full yellow garb, a pineapple tie, some pastel pants, even an old pair of shoes that I spray painted yellow. Once the kids sat down, we went through our daily salutations, but with a slight twist. "Good morning, class. Good morning, Mr. Banana." Every kid got a piece of banana bread, wrapped in plastic. Between the gluten, the walnuts, the eggs, I probably would have been sued if a crumb fell on the floor. Somehow, we made some headway on the Civil War that day. I showed them segments from a documentary about Abraham Lincoln, and they actually sat still, fumbling the banana bread in their hands. I started getting emails from parents a few days later. "Mr. Johnson, Alice absolutely loves your class. She said you're the funniest teacher she's ever had. Keep up the good work." Mrs. Goldman, it was nice to get that approval. Like I was actually doing something important. Hell, maybe these kids would even remember some of the stuff I taught them. So I started to go all out, bringing in yellow streamers to hang across the classroom. Type up the weekly newsletter with banana-themed border. Taking showers with L'Oreal Banana Blast shampoo. I spent hours on Google just so I could do a banana fact of the day for the kids. Turns out the scientific name for a banana is Musa sapientenum, which means fruit of the wise man. Go figure. I decided I would bring in banana bread every Monday Something for the kids to look forward to at the beginning of the week. I added a few sprinkles of cinnamon to the second batch, but the batter still didn't taste right to me. I figured a few strands of my banana-infused hair might do the trick. So I chopped off a few stragglers from the back of my neck and sautéed them in some olive oil. The batter had a slight punch after that. Definitely an improvement. We met with Principal Dole the next morning. Felt a little ridiculous going to a meeting in a neon yellow Jerry Garcia, but he didn't seem to mind much. You know, Mr. Johnson, we have received a lot of positive feedback about your whole fruit-themed initiative. Seems to really keep the kids focused. Anything to improve those test scores, right? Hey, if it works, it works. Keep it up. And you might find yourself tenured in a few years. I'm just happy to get through to these kids, sir. It was almost June and the mosquitoes were starting to come out. Turns out banana peels are a good cure for the bites. I asked anyone in the class if they wanted to volunteer. Jimmy had a big, nasty bite on his arm, and he wiped the peel all over his arms in the front of the class and on his face, too. How does that feel, Jimmy? Really cool, Mr. Banana. Anyone else want to give it a try? Everyone in the class raised their hand. When I got home, I turned on a documentary about the corruption of the Chiquita Brands International. Apparently, they brought cocaine to the Borneo on some of their ships. Treated the plantation workers terrible, too. I thought it would be a nice letter to write to the company about my initiative. Figured they might like to know that their product was more than just a topping for oatmeal. I spent the whole night writing, and it turned into a few thousand words about my theories on elementary education. I didn't really think much of it, but I sent it with the subject, "Bananas are more than just food," to info@chiquitainternational.com. It would probably be lost among the ton of angry customers anyway. It didn't cross my mind again until that weekend, when I got a phone call on the treadmill at Planet Fitness. "Mr. Johnson, this is Sophie from the Star Ledger. Just got an email from someone at Chiquita. Do you have a few minutes for an interview?" Yeah, of course. I was on the cover that week. It was a photo of me dressed in a full yellow, pointing above to the camera in the foreground, with all the gape-mouthed students behind me. Mr. Banana peels away the doubters. The local CBS station stopped by the school for a segment too. I watched my segment that Sunday, a few minutes of my awkward teaching voice inspired with interviews from me, Principal Dole, and a few parents. Apparently, some other elementary school teachers were starting to do it too. Mrs. Strawberry, Mr. Blueberry. I wonder if anyone else was doing banana. Once the special was over, I went to work on my third batch of banana bread. I sprinkled cinnamon, sautéed some of my hair, but the batter still tasted a little flat to me. I looked down at my hands and it occurred to me that my skin was starting to turn a little yellow. Probably from all the bananas I'd been eating. I wondered if my skin had any of that flavor. I grabbed the tweezers and plucked a thin piece from the tip of my thumb. It was a little salty, but definitely had a fruity taste to it. I figured I'd try out in the batter, so I took a bowl and plucked some skin off all 10 of my fingers and mixed it in. It tasted great. That morning, people actually recognized me in the streets. All those Princeton kids must watch the news. I couldn't make it more than a few steps down Washington without being stopped for a selfie or a congratulatory handshake. It was nice, actually. I never thought wearing silly clothes would make people like me so much. I threw up in a trash can when I walked into the classroom. Figured I'd been eating too much potassium. It was pure yellow, of course. That bright bile and banana mixture. I must have been churning in my stomach for days. I was there early, just so I wouldn't have to engage in that jealous, snarky small talk with the other teachers. So, you're some sort of teaching genius, huh? I wrote the banana fact of a day on the blackboard, then sat at my desk, shaking, waiting for the kids to arrive. I handed out rations of banana bread. After the Pledge of Allegiance, I wondered if the kids would still eat it if they knew they were eating a piece of me. Figured I should keep it a secret for the time being. Plus, it was my best batch yet. They didn't need to know how it was made. That night, I got another email from Mrs. Goldman. Good evening, Mr. Johnson. Congrats on your 15 minutes. Alice just loves the idea that her teacher is famous. We really appreciate all your efforts, especially baking the kids every week. Just a heads up, Alice found a hair in her banana bread this evening. Make sure you're keeping things clean at home. We don't want her to get sick and miss out on class. Mrs. Goldman. I went to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. Still dressed in my work clothes, it occurred to me that I was really starting to look like a banana. I gelled the top of my hair into a curved, pointed stem and turned sideways, arching my back for a second there. My face in the mirror disappeared. I was perfectly smooth, perfectly curved, and perfectly ripe. I almost cried thinking about changing into my pajamas. Instead of a delicious yellowish pulp, I was just a freckled, overweight sack of blood and bones. I peeled off my clothes and walked into the kitchen, just to make sure. I took a kitchen knife and made a small incision on my forearm, and the blood immediately oozed out. A dark purple sludge began to drip on the floor. I sliced down the arm to the same result, then sat down, watching blood sputter angrily onto my thighs. I woke up a few hours later, shivering, caked in brown metallic crust. I ate some breakfast and took a shower and then put on my full yellow outfit. I figured, should I wear long sleeve for the next few days? On Friday, the students performed a little play, Approximate Courthouse. Sitting in the back of the classroom, I wiped my eyes and typed an inquiry into Google. Did the Confederate soldiers eat bananas? I spent the weekend at home, lights off, watching the same episode of Sesame Street on repeat. Big Bird yanking on the desk and nails screeching from the forest. You said it was mine. You said it was mine. On Sunday night, I chopped off my left pinky and fried it in a skillet and sliced it into tiny pieces and mixed it into the batter. The banana bread came out darker than usual, a little savory, but still delicious. I wrapped my left hand in gauze and went to bed. I woke up late the next morning. Only had a few minutes to get ready. I slid into the average Joe's t-shirt and pair of yellow khakis, stuffed the banana bread into my backpack, and walked out the door. The kids stared at me warily as they walked into the classroom. Once they sat down, Jimmy raised a hand. Yes. Mr. Banana, what happened to your hand? Oh, just a little accident, nothing to worry about. I held up my hands for the whole class to see. Were you climbing a tree? No, Jimmy, just an accident in the kitchen. What are those scratches on your arms? I looked down and my forearms were crusty with blood. They must have opened up the cuts again somehow. I hadn't showered in days. Don't worry, kids. Let me just run to the bathroom and clean up. I rushed out of the classroom, into the bathroom across the hall. I took gauze off my left hand and poured my fist against the hand dryer until every bone shattered. I woke up to the sound of a faint whisper behind me. I stood, turned around. It was a banana, slightly bruised, but a beautiful shade of yellow, with the sharp lines protruding from the stem. He turned sideways, revealing his perfect curvature, and then flashed me a big smile. I walked toward him closer and closer until my nose was inches from the glass. Then he reached up and grabbed the top of his stem, stretching it sharply to one side slowly. He pulled it apart, revealing that incredible white flesh inside, radiating, breathing, beautiful. So I did the same, dragging my fingernails down my scalp and carving into my bones. The fresh, airy pulp coated my forearms, and clumps of yellow shrapnel fluttered to my feet. And then I was naked for the first time, staring into my own eyes, my flesh panting, finally believing that I was something more. I pressed my lips against the glass. A cool breeze rushed to my core. And then I was gone.